Hi everyone, it's Mark here, teacher for Your Yoga Flow Studio. Today I have a short tutorial about the importance of bending your knees in a yoga class, especially if, like me, you have tight hamstrings. Before I forget, please subscribe to our channel to see all the latest releases, and in the description of this class there's a special link that takes you to some free full-length practices on our Your Yoga Flow Studio platform. So definitely click the link and you'll find some wonderful classes with our amazing teachers. So to begin with today, if you have tight hamstrings, and it is a very common thing out there, some yoga poses can feel really uncomfortable or almost impossible. Now, that's where bending your knees comes into play. And it may not look aesthetically like the poses that you see on Instagram or on social media, but it can give you the most benefit in the pose and can allow you to enjoy the practice a little bit more. So we'll talk about some of those common poses. The first one is what's known as a seated forward fold. Now, traditionally, you might be cued to lengthen out your legs along your mat and then to fold forward. If you're tight hamstring like me, that's practically impossible. What you can do is bend your knees, and you could bring props underneath here like blocks if you had blocks or cushions, flex the feet towards you, and then that allows me to begin to bend the pelvis, and then I can find my variation of a forward fold. Once you're in this pose, you can play around with lengthening your legs bit by bit as needed. But if I try and come into this forward fold with my legs lengthened out, my range of motion is this. It's not really folding. If I bend my knees, it allows me the flexibility at the hips to fold forward and then to find this shape. Really simple, and the same principle really applies to a bunch of other poses in the yoga classes you might be attending. So another one that we can look at is downward facing dog. It's quite similar to a forward fold in some ways. Your hands are wide on your mat, your fingers spread wide. When we tuck the toes, we lift the hips up. Now traditionally, some of the cues you might hear are to lengthen the legs and to press the heels down to the earth. Now, if you look at my body here, I definitely can't lengthen my legs, and if I'm pressing my heels down, there's a lot of tension down the backs of my legs. So what I like to do here is to bend my knees to lift my hips up, and it allows me to find that V shape in the pose just a little bit more. And you can play around with over time, maybe lengthening out the legs a little more depending on the stretch you'd like to feel. But that bend in the knees will really help you find that nice V downward dog shape. We can also look at another really common pose, which is a standing forward fold. It's similar to our seated forward fold. The feet about inner hip width apart. And again, lots of people may hear the cue to keep your legs nice and lengthened, but it really doesn't allow me to find the fold in the shape, and the tension in the backs of my legs is really uncomfortable. All I have to do is bend my knees, fold at that hip joint again. It allows me to bring my chest towards my legs, my hands easily resting on the mat. And over time, I can play around with just gently lengthening the backs of my legs as needed. And you might find that this bend in your knees becomes really helpful in so many different shapes in a yoga practice. We're all anatomically different, we're all built differently, and so there's no right or wrong really in a yoga practice, but it's really about what works for you at that moment in time. And if you do have tight hamstrings, if you run, you cycle, or just if the flexibility isn't there, no problem, bend your knees. I guarantee you it's going to feel a whole lot better, and over time, who knows? Maybe you'll be able to lengthen your legs. Maybe like me, you'll practice for years and years and years and always be bending your knees. And I've embraced that at this point in my yoga journey, and I hope that this helps you to embrace it in yours as well. Again, click the link in the description. You'll find some amazing full-length practices with our teachers, and I'll see you next time. Bye.